time to get the laminates out for the lodging needs. Now, this material that I'm cutting up here is some really dense stuff, and it's hard. Quercus alba is what it is, and I purchased that in Connecticut from my friend at New England Naval Timbers. And we never failed to get exactly the right oak. You know, oak in general is a funny thing, you know. There's a saying by an architect that said that oak gets whiter and whiter the closer it gets to the boatyard, because people don't know or they don't want to know or something. So, you know, they take red oak for white oak all the time, but this is the real thing right here. I love working with this saw. I've had it for years, and it is just the most fun tool in the whole shop because of its capabilities. The other thing you see in a shot like this is that when I stop sawing, the blade doesn't come forward on me at all. I can even pull the lumber back a little bit, and the blade doesn't drift away from the back of the guides because it's adjusted properly. Otherwise, it would come out maybe a ½ an inch every time you stop. And that's just not good. That makes me nervous. I don't want the blade to come flying off the front of the wheels. It's pretty satisfying making a cut like this because it really does cut really, really well. And like I say, there's no replacement for it. You know, when you can split things down the middle and make a 3x into 2 1.5s, you know, it just saves you a lot of time and a lot of money. You pretty much, if you're going to build, have to have a saw somewhat like this in the shop. Making these cuts, I'm not even using a springboard to hold it up against the fence. I'm just doing it with my hand because it's cooperating so good that I don't have to worry about a springboard at all. And it's pretty safe because I don't see how that blade is going to come around there and cut my fingers off in this situation right here. When you're finishing up, you have to be really careful. You know, you don't put your thumb on the end of the piece of wood and push it through. I think you'll see me reach around the back of the blade and pull it at the very end because, you know, I know better than to push it up really close, even within, you know, an inch or two I don't like. So, you know, that's what to do. Reach around the fence, grab the piece, and pull it so that your left hand is just pushing it against the fence. So now there's my thumb on the end of it, but it's not going to last. See, there you go. And bingo, out the end. Well, now we're at my little planer, and it really works nicely. It's not lacking for power whatsoever. You could plane this thing away in one cut if you wanted to, but I'm mindful of those sawcurve cuts where it did drift maybe a little tiniest bit if I pushed it too fast through the saw. You know, I have to work that down a little bit. I don't have to get it out completely because I can work around it when I'm cutting the layers out. And this little planer works great because it's got a lot of roller pressure. And that's really nice because the roller pressure is what takes the cup out of the board as you plane it. This thing will flatten down a cupped 1-inch board and plane it flat on each side. You know, and if it wasn't tamed to begin with, the way it got cupped, you could probably plan on it cupping afterwards and all kinds of stuff, but as long as it's parallel on both sides and nice and smooth, you can kind of train it afterwards. I'm going to train it when I glue it up. I'm going to mash it down with clamps so it's not going to have any cupping in it. The reason I'm planing it down before I glue it is because otherwise you'd have to put a massive amount of glue on there, and the surface is just a little too irregular to make me feel good about it. So, you know, I'm flattening them right out. You don't really have to rough them up or anything because the glue soaks right into the wood. You know, I don't know how many thousandths, but I'll tell you what, it's enough to make it hang on for life. We're using the figured top laminate to trace out the other layers. Now that way, every layer will be identical other than the seams and the layers will be in different directions and kind of in different spots. You know, that's just to make the really, really stable. The pieces that I'm using are long enough so that I can use the same piece to make the whole layer because all the laminates are actually different thicknesses. You know, some of them are identical and others are different, but I'm able to coordinate the thicknesses really easily to make this thing happen. So each piece on the same layer is the same thickness. And once we trace them out, we just take them over to the bandsaw and cut them right out. You know, my little bandsaw with a 1/2-inch blade. It really is a nice size blade. I don't want to have one down to 3/8 of an inch, and I don't really want one up to 3/4. I would have maybe a 20-inch bandsaw if I was going to put a 3/4 inch blade, or maybe a 1-inch blade. It's nice for this kind of stuff because you can push it along nice and slow. You know, it's not lacking power whatsoever. You know, I can come nice and straight, and I can also go around the curves really nice. And that's all I really have to do. Then I stack them up on the table. Well, this is like the last piece that I have to cut out for the layers right there. Now, 8 layers I've cut out. You know, all a little bit different. The grains are a little bit different on each layer. It's kind of tricky to get those things coordinated just right, even dry. You know, this is the quartered piece, the one that goes on the top. And I'm just going to set that aside because these are all in pieces. Now, when I tried to even stack them, they're all identical, but they're all in pieces. So when you try to stack it up, you know, dry, you can't even stack it up dry. If you put glue in between those layers and you think you're going to coordinate them, it's just impossible. I can't do it. So, like I said, it's made in pieces. This layer just happens to have a couple pieces, and that layer's got 3. Well, they're all different. And, you know, I could spread them out like this, and let's see how many layers we've got to cope with here. There's 1, let's start over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers plus the top. So there's 9 laminates to it. So I'm thinking to myself, I have to find some way, layer by layer, to make the pieces so they don't move. And what I've come up with is actually taping them together with tape. So what I'm going to do is tape each layer together with blue tape. You know, sometimes I got to put 3 or 4 pieces on, maybe sometimes just a couple. But each layer is itself, it doesn't move. So now I can set them down on top of each other, and it's much, much easier to coordinate it. All I have to do is coordinate the perimeter, and I don't have to worry about everything inside. Now, to drill the holes, I can't trust myself really to drill a hole, you know, at 90 degrees to the surface. I just can't do it anymore. I guess it's because of the glasses or something. So what I've done is drill a hole through a block of wood on the drill press, nice and 90 degrees. I set it down on the surface and follow that hole down with the drill. It comes out really nice, you know. And then the hole that I'm drilling with the drill is not big enough for the nail. So I've got a nail in the other drill, and I've squashed the end of it so that it kind of acts like a drill. And I chase these holes out until they fit the nail, and the nail can slide in and out without getting really, really grabby or anything, because I have to pull them out after the gluing's done. There you have it. We're just prepping up here to start gluing. Now, I didn't want glue to get all over this piece of plywood, so we're putting packaging tape on it because the glue doesn't stick to it. It'll come right off of there. This is high-performance epoxy, and we're mixing it up the way we always do. I'm on the 2-to-1 scale. I'm dumping it in there right out of the container that you buy it with. And it makes it the easiest way possible to mix epoxy as far as I can tell. I've tried everything else. Pumps aren't too slow for this much. And, you know, there's no other way. You mix it in a pot, and I'm trying to use it right out of the pot. And that glue does not let go. Take my word for it. You know, I use it on everything. I love 2-to-1 mixed glue. It pays to use it. This thing is kind of like one piece when we're done. Okay, dust. Now, you have to be careful adding any kind of thickener because you could add too much really easily. So, you know, I mix in a generous supply. I mix that up and take a look at it and, you know, evaluate it and then say, well, I'm either going to put more in it or not. That way it comes out exactly the way I want it. I don't want it too thin and be running all over the place, and I don't want it crumbly. Just stiffen it up a little bit. Now, you've got to be careful when you get to this amount because you can put too much pretty easy and then it's just way too thick. I just want it to not quite drip off the stirring stick as fast as that. This will thicken it up a tiny bit right here. Well, there's a little challenge right here when you're spreading the epoxy around. You have to get it around all the nails, all the way around the edges, and everywhere. The second layer is the hardest layer, actually, because the first one's kind of swimming around. Once you get the second layer on, it gets easier on the way up because nothing moves. The nails are coordinating everything just exactly right. The pieces fall right into place, and they're right up close to each other, too. They don't have to be, you know, microscopically close because, you know, it's all hidden inside there, but it's tight. This system is showing its value right now because without a system like this, you would have all kinds of trouble. You know, if you glued all the layers up, and even if you thought they were close to each other, when you try to put a clamp on them, they slide like crazy. So, you know, you have to have something to coordinate it, and this works really, really good. You know, I'm glad I thought of this, because I was kind of up in the air about how I was going to go about this until I thought about it for quite a while, really. But there's always an answer to this kind of stuff, and I guess this is it right here. If I thought it was going to take me any longer, I would have poured the glue out onto a flat surface and then spread it out and use that for the volume. I keep going to and scrape it up and put it in between the layers, you know, and that'll work for certain. But I think I'm going to make it. I'm going to put one more right in here. Then I'm going to put some deep clamps into the middle of it and squash the middle as good as I can, you know, because what it's going to do, if it has that volume left in there, it's going to be like a radius on the top and the bottom. It's going to be like a pillow, sort of, you know. So what I do is I get inside and loosen the clamps around the outside, squeeze it up on the inside as tight as I can get it, and then tighten the outside ones, and you watch more glue come out. So it's glued together. Well, it's the next morning, and we pulled the nails, and all the clamps are off. So I'm going to take an electric plane to it for a little while here. Just a little bit, knock all the glue off and surface it a little bit. And once I've done that, I'll probably tip it up and just sight it. But there are other ways to find out if it's flat. You could throw it up on a big table saw and rub it around, and you'd find out exactly where the high spots were. But it's a small piece. I can do it just like this. I'm just going to flatten one side with my electric plane. I have to be kind of careful because I do want it to be flat, but it won't be absolutely perfect. And I'll put that side down, you know, in the planer when I stick it through the machine, and it'll follow that. The other side will come out even better, and then I'll flip it over again and plane this side. It'll come out even better. So it'll come out nice and flat, and it'll be ready for the top layer. I've clamped up our lodging knees. Now this one hasn't been glued yet, but the other one has. And I flattened one side with a hand plane, electric plane, and then I sighted it to see if it was real flat, and it was. And then I put it through the planer, the bench planer, so it comes out exactly the same thickness. And I've got it clamped up here. The top laminate's not glued on. I'm just holding it down there so it doesn't warp. You know, I'll glue the two top laminates on both knees at the same time. Now, I'm going to flip it this way just to show you the edge of it. You can see how tight the lines are. Really, really nice. The top one's not, like I say, processed and clamped down yet, glued, but look at that. I just think it looks great. It came out to be 2.5 inches, and all I really needed was 2. So I could plane it down some more if I wanted to, but I'm going to put it in just like that. So the next thing for us to do is to fit that in place, and the other side too, glue that one up. The last things that we have to do is install the lodging knees, the in-wales, and the caps. Now, that's going to be a great day when that's done, because the boat will be pretty much done as far as the woodwork, and I'll have to do some paint work on it, but we're getting awful close to having that boat in the water, and it is going to be a great day, really. That took a lot of effort, that boat, and it's just going to be fun out on the water with it. You know, we're going to do a number of things. We're going to have a drone overhead. We're going to video from another boat, which is going to be nice, and we'll edit that together. It's just going to be a great video and a great day. Now, you've probably noticed these timbers sitting here. These are Quercus alba, white oak, and I purchased these in Connecticut from New England Naval Timbers, and they're beautiful. They really are. I've got one more to bring in and process that. These have been all squared up already, and you know, I just wonder whether you guys have any idea what these timbers are for.